Hello and welcome back to Nerd News Today Toy Fair 2021. Now, one of my favorite toy companies is Bandai, and I feel like they don't get a lot of representation on this channel as much as I'd like to, because they were some of my favorite figures as a kid growing up. So I'm really excited to see what they've been doing these past few years, in particular with some of their anime licenses they've gotten recently. So here to talk with us today about some of those licenses, we've got Cisco Maldonado, who is the Senior Director of Brand Strategy over at Bandai. Cisco, how's it going today?
It's going good. Thanks for, I'm glad to be on your show.
So we've actually spoken to you a little bit earlier during this toy fair because we talked about Tamagotchi and Digimon. So we already know what your favorite toy was as a kid growing up. But let me throw you another question. How about
Okay.
what was your favorite anime growing up?
You know what? That's easy. It would be Robotech or like the Macross Saga, depending on like when you saw it. It was I guess my first taste of like anime really to begin with. And I remember it struck me that like they weren't standalone episodes, right? It was like a kid's version of a soap opera. Like, what you mean it continues? And like this guy dies, Ray Folker. Like I was heartbroken. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I remember thinking like during this high drama of the show that like the people who were writing the show, like they weren't dumbing it down. I'm like, okay, like this is like not real life stuff, but it like they had ups and downs, and you actually got involved with the characters. And so I just remember being looking forward to the next episode, and that was like my first taste of like long form content, right? And I think ever since then, I've always sort of had a soft spot in terms of like mech and that kind of stuff, because that was like my first real taste of like real cartoons. It's not a cartoon, it's anime. I don't want people to hunt me down, but we know what we're talking about.
That's a heck of an anime to start with, too. I mean, that's such a deep, deep one, too. So, wow, it's for a kid, too, it's got to be just so overwhelming, the entire universe of Robotech.
Yeah, I watched too much TV as a kid, so, you know.
So we're here today to talk about some of the different action figures that you guys are doing in the anime licenses. And I think the ones that you guys are most well known for at the moment is the Dragon Ball stuff. You guys have so many different types of Dragon Ball figures. It's become a very expansive line.
Yeah.
So let's just jump into things and start talking about the Dragon Stars line, which I think is the main line for DBZ, right?
Yeah, that's the one that's the most popular, right? That's the 6.5 inch action figures, like 1999. We have over 50 styles and counting, right? And I know that each toy fair we preview, here's what the next cool ones are. And I wanted to show you our next one and even a sneak peek of something that isn't even really available on pre-sale yet, but it will be soon. So we're talking about Broly over here. And I'm gonna get a close-up of him on camera. So this is movie version Broly. Right? And so, like, check that out, right? That's just pretty cool. He's available now for pre-sale. And, the articulation and just the detail on the face. A lot of fans been asking for this one, and he's one of my personal favorites. We already have, like, the blonde hair version, Super Saiyan version of Broly that we released maybe 4 or 5 months ago, I think. So this is our newest entry in there, and so we're really, really excited about that one. And then a new line for Dragon Stars is, we're calling it the Power Up Collection. And here we have an example of our packaging here for Super Saiyan Vegeta, and it's basically taking the most popular Dragon Stars characters and then adding the accessories for their energy blasts. And if we actually take a look at the back of the package, it'll show you like all that's included. Right? So 3 different levels from his energy blast. There's a version with Goku as well. And they have even the aura background included. So if I'm going to try to move the little thing here because it's a little bit. Here we go. Right? So here he is in all his glory. Right? So we have the energy blast here. This other accessory part that we can put in his hands. And then we have his energy aura right here. Right? So a lot of times, folks are asking us, like, I have these great figures and characters, and the next question is, once you take it home, like, what do you do with it, right? And so how are you going to pose them? How are you going to put them in just the way that you want to? And so we listened to fans, and we said, let's create a version that actually tells a story. Like, remember that time when he got his final form for the first time. Remember that time when he reached Super Saiyan 3, right? And this sort of captures that story in a box, and that's something we think is going to resonate really, really well with our fans, and it's something that we're really excited about.
That's very cool. Yeah, that looks really great. I can't believe that how good that looks. You can't see it now. I got some goosebumps going on right now. That's so exciting. And it kind of reminds me of when you guys did the Final Blast statues, like I think you talked about there. So let me actually ask you about that too. Are there more Final Blast statues on the way?
So for Final Blast, I think we have one more wave that's coming out. There's a Piccolo version. Let's grab him up at the top there. I think we have. Oh, I'm sorry. We're gonna get Cell right? These guys are super cool, right? Like I'll get a close up of him, and this is sort of a little bit of an audible because he was just off of the side, but like the level of detail that's involved, like that's pretty cool, right? Like we're looking at like roughly 2.5 inches high, but just the level of detail, and it's just a fun figure for something that, can fit in the palm of your hand. So he's going to be part of our next line, and it's really just a function of, what styles people want to see, right? From a making a toy point of view, like you want to go deep to get the core fans, right? But there are some characters out there, like how come you can't do this version of the character, right? And the question is like, well, are enough people going to want it, right? And you have to make them and place it and all those things like that. But we listen to our fans as well as some personal favorites, and we want to be able to do something that both core and casual fans will enjoy.
So in addition to that, you guys also do the Limit Breaker line. Those are the, I think, 12-inch figures, right? That are a little bit less articulated, but those are really still good looking too. I mean, it's such a perfect fit for the type of figures and type of anime that you have too. Is there any news from Limit Breaker?
So for Limit Breakers, I mean, we're going to show our two main lines here. We have Goku up front here, right? And the really cool thing about the Limit Breaker is like just the level of, he's so big he doesn't even fit in the camera. How about that, right? But even the detail on the face, right? Like just as good as a 6.5 inch, like looks just like the animation, and I tell folks like that's what Bandai does best. It's a spot on interpretation from the anime to the action figure. And just because the action figure just happens to have, 5 points of articulation is more rough and tumble, doesn't mean you can't do it in a larger figure. Like even look at that Vegeta, like check that out, right? That's just cool. Whether you're a collector or like a 7-year-old who's going to want something that isn't going to break anytime soon, this is something that we're really, really happy with, and that's his good side. Right? Like even the detail, it's really exceptional. It's something we're really happy about. We're going to have new versions that are out there. They're in process of being made right now. But I think our latest one that we did, I think is a Gogeta, like a Blue Hell version Gogeta. He's going to be out for pre-sale pretty soon. And then we have a couple other surprises in the works that we're going to get ready to unveil.
So in addition to that, you guys have so many Dragon Ball lines, but in addition to those that we already talked about, you guys also have the Evolve line. That's like the super articulated, really kind of more high-end figures, and those are really, really spectacular looking. Is there any updates for that line?
For Evolve, right, they're the same number of articulation points, right? It's at a $9.99 price point, right? And it's still really impressive. So we have here Golden Frieza. I'm going to pull him up on the close-up here. Like, he's actually really, really impressive looking. Like, you would normally think this is a 6.5 inch figure, but it's not, right? Like, pretty impressive. And his tail's articulated in the back, and, right, the color is spot on. Right. The packaging is more for like your mass retailers, right? So it's in that blister pack, and it shows like the great artwork as opposed to the Dragon Stars, which is that window box. But still, for folks who want great characters at a little bit of a sharper price point, the Evolve line is really exciting. We have 3 more characters that are going to be coming in the spring. We're going to be announcing those relatively soon, so we're not quite ready to let the cat out of the bag. But in the next few weeks, we're going to make a couple of announcements, and we're really excited about the latest line. I really think it's about the quality and Dragon Stars, right? Like, so Dragon Stars, that's the crown jewel of the entire Dragon Ball line, right? And it really is about what different versions of characters are both core fans and casual fans really going to do. And I was working with our R&D team in Tokyo, and there's a couple action figures that they're kind of pulling out. And I think fans are really, really going to be excited about it. They're a little bit old school, right? But once, and we're trying to figure out kind of a cool and clever way to reveal what they are. But it's going to be one of those ones that when you see it, you're going to be like, oh, that's the one I want. So we're really excited about it. They're in the works right now. But you'll be one of the first to know when we're ready to talk about it.
So Cisco, the Dragon Ball stuff is amazing. I'm salivating over here talking about it, but that's not all from Bandai. You guys also have the Anime Heroes line. This is a very expansive action figure line. Another really, really great one. So what do you guys have new for 2021 with Anime Heroes?
We started off the year with a bang, and even in the back half of last year, we were really excited that we were nominated for Action Figure of the Year finalist for the Anime Heroes line, which is quite an accomplishment given that we've only launched the line like a year ago, right? Like a lot of other brands go years and years before getting this kind of notoriety. So we're very fortunate and very happy that that people are noticing, especially industry folks, of how cool these figures are. the latest line of IP that we just announced under the Anime Hero brands is One Piece, right? Like you can't not have One Piece for Anime Heroes. Like it's one of the big three that's out there. And we came out with an astounding first foray, and so we have our first three figures in that wave. And I'm going to do a close-up to do these guys justice. You know, it's really funny when you're doing action figures. I first asked myself, like, hey, we're going to do a Luffy action figure, right? And action figures typically aren't skinny, right? So when I was thinking to myself, like, how are we going to pull this off? I was a little scared, right? But then when I saw the first samples and the models coming out there, I'm like, well, holy mackerel, we did it, right? Looks just like the animation, right? So even in the background of your screen, when you're looking at like the picture of his face, right, versus the action figure, again, it's a spot-on interpretation from the anime to the action figure, right? Like it's uncanny, right? And so that's Luffy. We're really excited. Obviously, he comes with the extra hands and he has a little hat accessory that he has on the back. Next, we have Sanji, right? And Sanji, even like just the face detail, like, right? And even his eyebrows curled on the right one, right? Versus when they switched, like, I think like 3 seasons into like the other one and people kind of wondered like what happened there, right? So that shows a level of detail that we actually pay attention to, right? His hands come off. Also, he has the fire that fits on either foot, right? Because you can't not have that in terms of this. And then my personal favorite, we got Zoro, right? And you can't not talk about One Piece without talking about Zoro. And just even that level of detail, right? Like with 3 swords, can we even get a close-up of like the 3rd sword that's on there, right? So like 1, 2, 3, he's holding 2. Like most folks, like you're not going to find that in an action figure, right? But for Zoro, like it's there. And he has that wonderful like licorice green color that he has. The lights make it a little bit brighter, but in real life, it's actually a tad darker, right? And it's just spot on where the animation is. And the detail in the face and the sword accessories. This is the one I think fans are going to want. They're all great, but it's swords. Who doesn't like swords, right? But, and that's just a start. Like we have other figures in the line that are going to come down the pike coming in the fall of 21. Can't reveal what they are just yet. But if you can think of what will be another character to add to One Piece, odds are you'll be guessing the right thing. So we're really excited about One Piece.
So I've got a question actually to follow up about that with the Zoro figure, because, Zoro's known for having the 3 swords, 1 in each hand, and then the 3rd in his mouth. So
That's
is that
right.
a possibility you guys can do?
You know what? From the engineering point of view of what an action figure can do, there are limitations, right? Like if we were to make his mouth articulated in such a way where he actually could hold the sword, some things kind of don't hold up, right? It's almost like, when they first started making like comic book movies, maybe like, 15 years ago, like with like the first Superman, like some of the colors have to be muted because they're not going to show up on camera the right way, right? So the same thing when you're trying to translate anime to action figure, like we tried, right? And we saw versions of like, and it just like, you look at it, you're like, okay, like it's going to look silly, and we want to do justice to the IP. So we figured, what's the next best thing to do? It's not to say we didn't think about it, but we think it's best for all fans alike that we can figure out like how to make it work.
For sure, because that's definitely a tough ask, and I'm sure it's something you probably hear a lot from the fans, is they probably specifically would want to have a Zoro to be able to do that. But yeah, not an easy thing to pull off. So regardless, though, figures look really great. And now beyond One Piece as well, you guys also have done Naruto, you've done Saint Seiya. Again,
That's
really,
right.
really brilliant looking figures. Will those lines be continuing as well?
Of course. So here we have Naruto, and we have Minato right here, which just started, and so we can get a close-up of him and all of his splendor. Like, again, looking at like the face from the animation to like the detail is uncanny, right? The colors are spot on. And right, like I was joking with my associates here that when you go to Comic-Con, you'll find more people cosplaying as Minato more than almost anything else, because he is just so visible with like that lovely, white trench that he has. It's so recognizable. We want to make sure that we capture that for a new figure. We have several other figures planned in the Anime Heroes line of Anime Heroes. And so those are going to be coming soon. And, we've been just tickled pink about how well these guys are selling. Like everyone loves Naruto and all the different characters that come down here.
So Cisco, now we talked recently about Digimon Tamagotchi, and the big thing with Tamagotchi is that there's going to be now Evangelion Tamagotchi. So I'm curious if that license that's going for Tamagotchi extends into action figures. Could we see Bandai tackle Evangelion?
You know what? that's what Anime Heroes was made for, right? So when we first envisioned the Anime Heroes brand, it really was to say, what are the most iconic, right, and well-known of anime that's out there, and what can we bring into Anime Heroes, right? And even if you look at all the different logos here, right, like some of them we're going to do, some of them maybe not, right? But from a manufacturing of stuff is concerned, right? We want to make sure that we excite both casual fans and core fans, and we want to be able to introduce fans who might not be familiar with it, right? So One Piece fans are going to want these figures, like that's a given, right? But for folks who are Naruto fans, right, and they go into like your Target or your Walmart or Amazon and they see like, oh, what's this One Piece thing, right? And they're going to be like, oh, it's on Netflix. And then they're watching it. And then Netflix is going to do a live action version, right? It's introducing people into the anime. And then the anime will then introduce people into the figure, right? So for something like Evangelion or other properties, we're looking at all of them, right? It really is what's the next logical one to fit into the next line, right? Not just from an IP point of view, but also from a toyetic point of view, right? Because if you have, I'm going to say names because I'm not going to give anything away, but if you have a sense of action figures and they're all in uniform, right? And the only difference is their face. Well, how are they going to appear on shelf? And is that exciting enough for a fan, right? You can't get much more different than Luffy and Zoro, right? So it's a natural fit, right? So we're always looking at what's going to work as far as an action figure, as well as doing justice to the actual animation itself.
Well, I got to say, the Bandai Anime Heroes figures, they're such good figures. I always see collectors in all these different groups I'm in, always talking about NECA or Hot Toys, this and that. But Bandai, I feel like for adult collectors, it's one of those like hidden gems. And when you know about it, you're just blown away every time. So
Yeah.
great
Well,
presentation,
hopefully,
Cisco. Appreciate that.
thank you. It won't be not so hidden for long because these things are just blowing the doors off. Folks are realizing how great these figures are, and we want as many people to be exposed to the properties and the brand as possible.
So for fans who are watching today and maybe want to give you some hints or ideas about possible franchises they want to see, or if they just want to keep up to date on what's going on with Bandai and the Anime Heroes and Dragon Ball figures, how can they do that?
Follow us on our Bandai handle on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all your social channels. There's some even like independent Reddit streams that we listen to as well. So if fans want something, we listen, right? That's part of what One Piece did, right? Enough fans are talking about it. And we also keep our eye and our finger on the pulse of what anime is hot out of Japan, right? And in terms of what's trending, whether it's going to be on over-the-top platforms or theatrical films coming out, and we're going to make sure that we're going to be as responsive as possible to make Anime Heroes as strong a brand as possible.
All right, well, Cisco, thank you so much for that great presentation and that great sneak peek and up close look at all the different figures Bandai has coming out 2021. Couldn't be better. So yeah, thank you so much, Cisco. Great chatting with you today.
You too. Good to see you again.
So everybody stick around. There's more Nerd News Today Toy Fair 2021 coming right up.